Welcome to a special episode of the MC Knitting Adventures podcast. My name's Colleen and May is filming. So what we're going to talk about today is what to do when the dye in your yarn bleeds. I knit the Throwing It Back mystery knit along that the Cozy Up sisters did in 2022. Now, it was a wonderful knit along, and I love their mystery knit alongs because they tell you what kind of yarn you need, and they tell you sort of what the colors need to look like, whether it needs to be variegated or solid, and then every week you get a new clue. It is a lot of fun, and I had a great time. So the colors that I decided on a background of a light gray, and then the colors were a dark gray, a black, and then this red burgundy color. And life was good. I was knitting along. Everything was fine. And then what happened was I went to block it and the red ran a little bit. So the first thing I did to try and salvage what I could was I took off some of the lace that was at this end. So this is not how it's supposed to be at the one end. There's other lace that's supposed to be here. So what I did was I kind of ripped up to the point of where any colors were. I did the same thing on the other end, as you can see. So it looks the same on both ends, but I did anything that was away from where the red was. So that was my first plan. So I have more yarn and I can figure out what to do with that. It was okay because this thing was huge. Even May had said, how many times around your neck will that go? So it was great and I loved it. And then I thought, okay, there's got to be a way to rescue it. Well, let's be honest. The first thing after that was I thought I could just wear this at the campfire. Then I don't worry about it if it smells like fire. My shoulders will be warm and that will be good. So that's what I thought. And then I thought, well, maybe I can do something to see if I can get this red dye out that ran. And so what I purchased, sorry for leaning out of the picture, was some SOS Color Run, Restore Items Stained by Color Run Accidents. There you go. So that's what I'm going to try today. I've never used this before. You can use it in your machine when you do machine washing. I'm not going to wash this by machine. I'm going to do it by hand, and you have to be careful because you're supposed to use as warm a water as you can, and obviously I can't use super hot water, and that's okay. So I'm not going to be upset one way or the other whether this works. I'm just going to try it out. We'll see the before and after. We'll see what we can do. And then I'll be honest with you, if it works, then I might take the yarn that I ripped back on the edges and I might skein it up and then put it through the same process, because I think I've got it where there isn't any hint of the red, but you never know. So that is my plan. So the nice thing is there's 2 sachets in here. So 2 different ones. I only need one to do what I'm going to do. And then we're just going to get started and see if I can deal with this red color that's run onto my shawl. Here are the directions for the hand wash. So step 1 is to fill the container or sink, and I have a container, with the hottest water the fabric care label allows. Well, this is wool, and so I'm going to be dealing with something that's a lukewarm temperature. I have my container filled with lukewarm water, a little cooler than lukewarm because I don't want to shrink that or felt it. And now the next step says add contents of 1 sachet. 1 sachet. You're going to add the contents and then you're going to stir it thoroughly. It's a lovely color of green. All right, so the sachet is in, and now I have to stir it thoroughly. I've put the sachet in, and now it says stir thoroughly. So I'm going to use this paint stick, stir stick, and I just have to make sure that all of this is stir thoroughly. So May was great to loan me one of her paint sticks. And it looks like it's all mixed in nicely. Okay, I think we're good. All right, thank goodness for my towel. Okay, so that's that. The next step is to add the item, making sure it's completely submerged. So there's a lot of it to submerge, so I'm just gonna put it in a little bit at a time and make sure it's absorbing it. So I'll give it a squeeze as it goes in. This is all about the displacement theory, and I'm hoping I've got enough. The trick is to make sure it's totally submerged. And I see that it's taking some of the dye out of the black yarn. So this is going to be really interesting to see what this does. As I said, I've never used it before. I've heard it's wonderful stuff. So I'm just going to keep squeezing, getting the air out of the yarn. I'm going to keep squeezing it. Oh my gosh, you can see that it's really pulling the dye out. This is going to be very interesting. It's like a science experiment. So I think we are completely submerged. That's what it says. Now I'm to leave it soaking for at least 1 hour. So I'll see you back in an hour. All right, we've waited for an hour. Oh my goodness. The only good thing is that the water has a bit of a purplish tinge. So I guess that's positive. I have no idea what I'm going to get when I get this out. I have done what it said, so the last step is to rinse thoroughly and wash and dry as usual. Well, I'm not going to wash and dry it, I'm just going to rinse thoroughly. So I'm going to take this away and I'll be back so we can see what it actually looks like. I wanted to show you before I rinsed it. I'm not sure we have a success here, but I'm going to go rinse it and then I may try some soak and we're going to see what we end up with. As you can see, the black dyes run, the red dyes run, and the background gray looks to be a little purple. So I am going to spread this out on the blocking mats, and I might have just created something tie-dye without meaning to. Well, I followed the instructions, I rinsed it and washed it like I normally would, and sometimes experiments just don't work out. So this was a light gray, and you will see now that we've almost become purple. And now both the black and the red have run a little bit. And I think, if I'm thinking about it, it makes sense because both the red and the black are dyes, and probably the product was thinking, we're just going to try and get rid of the excess dye. Unfortunately, it bled. Now, the good news is, I knew this might happen. This is going to be used around the campfire when we go camping, and it will be dark. So that will be the good part. But I want to talk about how you could perhaps prevent this, the bleeding from happening. So I don't often use red or a really dark cranberry kind of color. And so that is probably why when I did this, I wasn't even expecting it. Now, somebody, one of our subscribers had suggested, well, maybe you could have washed the red yarn first before you used it. Great idea. And I think maybe if I was going to use a red, that's what I would do. And what that reminded me of is something else that you can do is just take a piece of the yarn that you want to check to see whether it's going to bleed. So I have this skein of yarn, and I'm going to put it together with this gray. And we got this in Edinburgh from the Ginger Twist Studios. And so I don't want a problem with this yarn. So I'm going to try and be proactive about it. I've already caked it up, so I don't really want to have to wind it back into a skein and wash it. So what I've done is, if you take a piece of plain paper towel, so this is dry, and I've soaked a piece of this yarn. So I'm just going to take some of the water out. And then all you have to do is take that yarn, and what you do is you wrap it around. You wrap it around the paper towel. And then what you do is you wait a few minutes, and then what's going to happen is you see if any of the dye comes off of the paper towel. So I'm just going to give it a minute or two, and then we'll come back and see what happens. So I've left it a few minutes, and now I'm just going to unwind it. And you can see that there's no burgundy or red or purple. There's nothing on that piece of paper towel. So this works well to let you know if that's going to bleed. And note to self, if you're going to use like a cranberry or a red, that's not a bad idea. The other thing is you can do it is to do it with black as well, because black will also bleed. And sometimes your hands react with black, but the black yarn won't bleed. So I was working on a shawl, and what happened was I was getting all this black dye on my hands, and I thought, oh my goodness. And so I did this test, and I found out that the black wasn't going to bleed, but it's just that whatever is the chemical in my hand, and some people have that happen with black, it was on my hands, but it wasn't going to bleed on the shawl. So it is a great way to test to see if something's going to happen. And right now this is good. I'm going to just use it for the campfire. I might get to the point that I'd want to over dye it. I'm not even sure I'm going to go there, because once you use it in a campfire, it's going to have a campfire smell, so it's going to have a special place to go. So thanks so much for watching. It is an experiment. Experiments don't always go the way you hope, and that's why they're called them experiments. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, comment down below. If you have any ideas of how to deal with bleeding colors when it comes to your shawls or your knitwear, just let me know. And until next time, you take care.